They say the truth has a way of coming out in the darkest hours. I never believed that until the night I found myself sitting in my car at 2 in the morning, watching my wife walk into another man's house. But this isn't just a story about infidelity. This is about how one woman's lies didn't just destroy one family, she destroyed two. And I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened and how both families made sure she paid for every single lie. My name is David Martinez, and for 15 years I thought I had the perfect marriage. My wife, Katherine, was everything I'd ever wanted. Beautiful, intelligent, successful in her career as a marketing executive. We had two kids, Emma, who was 12, and Lucas, who was 9. We lived in a great neighborhood, took family vacations, had date nights. From the outside, we were the American dream. But here's what I've learned about dreams. Sometimes they're just illusions we tell ourselves while we're sleeping. And I was asleep for a very long time. It started 6 months ago with something small, something so insignificant that most people would have brushed it off. Catherine started working late. Not every night, just Tuesdays and Thursdays. She'd come home around 11, sometimes midnight, exhausted but apologetic. Big client, she'd say, demanding project. You know how it is. And I did know how it was. I owned my own construction company, Martinez Brothers Construction. I'd built it with my younger brother Rico from nothing into a thriving business. I understood long hours and demanding clients. So I believed her. I supported her. I took care of the kids on those nights, made sure homework got done, cooked dinner, did bedtime routines. I was the understanding husband, the supportive partner, the complete fool. The first crack in the illusion came on a Thursday night. Catherine had texted me around 7 saying she'd be late. Another client meeting. I was helping Emma with her math homework when her phone rang. She'd left it on the kitchen counter, which wasn't unusual. What was unusual was the name on the screen. Brandon Work. I wouldn't have thought twice about it, except I knew all of Catherine's work contacts. She talked about them constantly. Brandon had never come up. Not once in 15 years of marriage. I let it go to voicemail, told myself it was nothing. But that seed of doubt? Once it's planted, it grows fast. The next Tuesday, I did something I'm not proud of. I tracked Catherine's phone. There are apps for that now, did you know? Apps that let you see exactly where someone is at any given moment. All you need is access to their iCloud account, and Catherine and I had always shared passwords. No secrets between us, right? That's what I thought. At 8:30 p.m., her phone showed she was at the office building downtown where her company leased space. That matched her story. I felt guilty for doubting her, but I kept watching. At 9:15, the dot on my screen started moving. Not toward home, toward the residential area on the east side of town. At 9:45, the dot stopped moving. I zoomed in on the address, 2847 Lakewood Drive. A house, not her office, not anywhere near her office. I sat there staring at that dot for 2 hours. It didn't move. My wife was in someone's house at midnight on a Tuesday, and she'd told me she was working late. You want to know what went through my head in those 2 hours? Everything. Maybe it was a work function at someone's home. Maybe it was a legitimate explanation. Maybe I was being paranoid and ridiculous. But deep down, I knew. You always know. Your gut knows before your brain wants to accept it. I didn't confront her that night. When she came home at midnight, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed beside me, and I could smell cologne on her. Not my cologne, someone else's. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, and I made a decision. I needed to know everything. Not just suspicions, not just doubts. Everything. The next morning, I called in a favor. My brother Rico had a friend who did private investigation work. Former detective, now ran his own firm. His name was Marcus Webb, and he specialized in infidelity cases. How sure are you? Marcus asked me when we met at a diner away from my neighborhood. 90%, I told him. That's pretty sure. Not sure enough to blow up my family over. Marcus nodded. He'd heard this before. What do you want to know? Everything. Who he is. How long it's been going on. What she's told him. What she's told me. I want the complete truth. Truth can be ugly, Marcus warned. Living with lies is uglier. He took the case, And what he found out over the next 3 weeks made my suspicions look tame. Brandon Castellano, 38 years old, senior VP at the same marketing firm where Katherine worked. Married for 14 years to a woman named Jennifer. 2 kids, both boys, ages 11 and 8. Lived at 2847 Lakewood Drive in a 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage and a swimming pool. The affair had been going on for 2 years. Not 6 months, 2 years. Tuesdays and Thursdays weren't just late work nights. They were scheduled meetings. Sometimes at his house when Jennifer worked her night shift as an ER nurse. Sometimes at hotels. Sometimes during business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Marcus showed me evidence. Photos of them at restaurants in different cities. Hotel registrations under fake names but paid for with credit cards that trace back to them. Text messages recovered from phone records. Emails from company servers that they thought were private. But here's the thing that really destroyed me. It wasn't just physical. This wasn't some casual fling or mistake. Katherine was in love with him. The messages made that clear. She talked about leaving me, about starting a new life with Brandon, about how she'd stay just long enough to make sure the divorce settlement left her financially secure. Sound familiar? These people all read from the same playbook. And Brandon? He was telling her the same things. That he loved her. That he was going to leave Jennifer. That they just needed to wait for the right time. That they deserved to be happy. 2 families, 4 kids. All of it built on midnight lies. I sat in Marcus's office looking at all this evidence and something cold settled over me. That same cold calculation I'd felt when I started my business from nothing. When I'd competed for contracts against companies 10 times our size. When I'd risked everything on my vision. This was a problem that needed solving. And I was very good at solving problems. I need you to do something else for me, I told Marcus. What's that? Find Jennifer Castellano, Brandon's wife. I need to talk to her. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? Very sure. But first I need you to find out if she knows. It took Marcus 3 days to get me an answer. Jennifer didn't know. She was working night shifts at the hospital, raising 2 boys, keeping their household running, completely unaware that her husband was building a second life with my wife. Just like I'd been doing for 2 years. Marcus arranged a meeting, neutral territory, a coffee shop in a part of town neither Jennifer nor I normally frequented. He didn't tell her why I wanted to meet, just that it was important and that it concerned her husband. Jennifer Castellano was not what I expected. I'd built up this image in my head of someone cold, someone who must have driven her husband away. That's what we do, right? We blame the other spouse. But Jennifer was warm, kind, exhausted from a night shift, but still willing to meet a stranger because someone said it was important. I'm David Martinez, I said when we sat down, and I'm very sorry to be the one to tell you this, but your husband Brandon has been having an affair with my wife Katherine for the past 2 years. I'll never forget the look on her face. It wasn't shock or anger, it was recognition. Like she'd known something was wrong, but couldn't put her finger on what. Like all the little pieces that didn't make sense suddenly formed a picture she didn't want to see. Show me, she said quietly. I did. Marcus had prepared a folder, just the highlights. Photos, dates, hotel records. Enough to prove it without being gratuitously cruel. Jennifer looked through everything with the clinical detachment of a nurse examining an X-ray. Then she closed the folder and looked at me. What do you want? She asked. I want the truth to matter, I said. I want them to face real consequences. And I want to make sure our kids are protected in this mess. When you say consequences, I mean I want them to lose everything they thought they could keep. Their reputations, their jobs, their ability to just walk away and start over like this never happened. Jennifer studied me for a long moment. Then she said something I didn't expect. I'm an ER nurse. Do you know what we say about infections? I shook my head. You can't heal what you don't expose. Sometimes you have to cut deep to clean the wound. Are you in? I asked. She didn't even hesitate. I'm in. Over the next month, Jennifer and I became unlikely allies. We met regularly, always carefully, always away from our neighborhoods. We compared notes. We shared evidence. We built a case not just for divorce, but for complete and total exposure of what Katherine and Brandon had done. Here's what we learned. They weren't just having an affair. They'd been siphoning company resources for their relationship, using company credit cards for personal trips, booking conference rooms for private meetings, using work email for explicit communications on company servers. That was important because it meant this wasn't just personal, it was professional misconduct. And their company had very strict policies about workplace relationships and misuse of company resources. Jennifer also discovered something I'd missed. Brandon had been lying to Katherine too. He'd told her he was going to leave Jennifer, but he'd also refinanced their house 6 months ago in only his name. He'd moved investments around. He'd been preparing for a divorce, but not the one Katherine expected. He was protecting his assets from Jennifer while keeping Katherine thinking they had a future. The man was playing both women, and Jennifer and we were about to make sure he lost at both games. We also found out that Katherine had been bad-mouthing me to Brandon, telling him I was controlling, that I didn't support her career, that our marriage had been dead for years. All lies. I had emails proving I'd supported every career move she'd made. Text messages showing me taking care of the kids so she could work late, even on the nights she was actually with him. She'd rewritten our entire history to justify what she was doing. And Brandon had done the same to Jennifer. Told Katherine that Jennifer was cold, that she didn't care about his needs, that she only cared about her career. Jennifer showed me texts where Brandon was praising her, telling her he loved her, making plans for family vacations, all while telling Katherine that his marriage was loveless. These people were professional liars, and they were about to find out that lies have consequences. Jennifer and I decided on a two-pronged approach. First, we'd handle the personal side, then we'd handle the professional side. The timing would be crucial. We needed to make sure both happened close enough together that they couldn't contain the damage. For the personal side, we planned something public. Not quite as dramatic as the anniversary party from other stories you might have heard, but effective. Our kids went to the same school district, different buildings, but connected communities. The school was having a fundraiser gala, a big formal event where parents dressed up and pretended to care about raising money while really just networking and gossiping. Katherine and Brandon would both be there, with their respective spouses, playing their perfect family roles. That's where we'd expose them. But first, we needed to handle the professional side. Jennifer knew someone on the company's board of directors, a friend of her father's, someone who'd known her since she was a child. She arranged a private meeting with him and the head of HR. We presented everything: the misuse of company resources, the inappropriate relationship between a VP and someone who, while not a direct report, was in his chain of influence, the explicit emails on company servers, the fraudulent expense reports. The board member, his name was Gerald Thornton, looked at everything with increasing disgust. "This is actionable," he said. "Both of them could be terminated for cause. No severance. Possible legal action for the misappropriated funds." "We want to handle this carefully," Jennifer said. "We have children who will be affected by this, but we also want them to face real professional consequences." Gerald nodded. "Give me a timeline. When do you want to move?" "The school gala is in 2 weeks," I said. "We'll handle the personal exposure that night. Can you move professionally the next morning?" "I can have termination letters drafted and ready to go," Gerald confirmed. Everything was in place. Jennifer and I had rehearsed what we'd say. We'd coordinated with Marcus to have additional documentation ready. We'd even talked to lawyers about how to handle custody and the chaos that would follow. But here's something we didn't anticipate. Our kids. Emma, my 12-year-old daughter, was smarter than I gave her credit for. 3 days before the gala, she came to me while I was working in my home office. "Dad, is Mom having an affair?" I felt like I'd been punched. "What makes you ask that?" "She's been acting weird, and you've been acting weird, and I heard you on the phone with someone talking about evidence and exposure." I could have lied. Part of me wanted to, but Emma was old enough to deserve the truth. "Yeah, baby, she is." Emma didn't cry. She just nodded like she'd suspected. "With Lucas's friend, Tyler's dad?" I blinked. "Tyler Castellano, Brandon's son." How did you know? Mom gets this look when he's around at school events, and she's always texting when we're supposed to be having family time. I'm not stupid, Dad. No, you're not stupid. You're very smart. And I'm sorry you had to figure this out. Are you and Mom getting divorced? Yes. Good, Emma said. And then she did cry, but not sad crying, angry crying. She's been lying to us, to all of us. That's not okay. I held my daughter while she cried, and I felt that cold resolve harden even more. Katherine hadn't just betrayed me. She'd betrayed our children, and they knew. Kids always know. There's going to be some stuff happening soon, I told Emma. It's going to be uncomfortable in public, but it needs to happen. The gala, Emma said. It wasn't a question. How did you? I asked. I heard you talking about it. Are you going to tell everyone? Yes. Can I be there? Emma, I don't think. I want to be there, Dad. She needs to know, that we're not babies she can lie to. I thought about it. It was harsh. But Emma had a point. Katherine needed to see that her lies had affected everyone, including her children. Okay, I said. But if it gets too intense, you leave with Uncle Rico. Deal? Deal. The night of the gala, I wore my best suit. Emma wore a dress her grandmother had bought her, navy blue and elegant. She looked older than 12. She looked ready for battle. Katherine was already there when we arrived. She'd gone early to help set up, she'd said. I told her Emma and I would meet her there. The look on her face when she saw us walk in together was priceless. Confusion, then concern, then forced brightness. There you are. I was wondering when you'd arrive. She kissed my cheek. It took everything in me not to pull away. We need to talk, I said quietly. Now? David, I'm busy with... Now. Something in my voice must have convinced her. She followed me to a quiet corner, Emma trailing behind. What's this about? And why did Emma come? This is really an adult event. Emma wanted to be here, I said. She wanted to see this. See what? I pulled out my phone, showed her a photo Marcus had taken just 3 days ago. Katherine and Brandon in his car, kissing in a parking lot. The color drained from her face. I know everything, I said. Every lie. Every time you said you were working late. Every hotel room. Every text message. All of it. Katherine looked at Emma, then back at me. We need to discuss this privately. No, Mom, Emma said. Her voice was steady. I know what you did. I've known for weeks. You lied to all of us. Emma, sweetie, it's complicated. Adults sometimes. Don't, I interrupted. Don't try to spin this. Don't try to make excuses. Emma's old enough to understand that you made choices. Bad choices. Selfish choices. Katherine's shock was turning to anger. You told our daughter? What kind of father? She figured it out herself. Because you got sloppy. Because you stopped caring about hiding it. That's when I saw him. Brandon Castellano, across the room with Jennifer and their 2 boys. Jennifer caught my eye and nodded. It was time. There's something else you should know, I said to Katherine. Jennifer knows too. She's known for weeks, and we've been working together. Working together on what? Making sure you both face consequences for what you've done. I saw the moment Katherine understood. Her eyes went wide. What did you do? We exposed you. To your company. To the board of directors. Tomorrow morning, you and Brandon are both being terminated for cause. Misuse of company resources. Inappropriate workplace relationship. Fraud. All of it documented and reported. Katherine actually stumbled. You can't. David, my career. Your career? The coldness in my voice surprised even me. You destroyed our family for your career? You lied to our children for your career? You get what you deserve. Jennifer had moved closer with her sons. Brandon was with her, and his face had gone pale. He'd obviously just been told the same thing. You, Katherine said, staring at Jennifer. You did this. We both did this, Jennifer said calmly. You and Brandon made choices. We're just making sure those choices have consequences. People were starting to notice. The room was getting quieter. Parents were staring. You want to make a scene? Brandon hissed. In front of our kids? In front of everyone. You made the scene, I said. We're just showing people what it looks like. That's when Emma spoke up, her voice carrying in the quiet room. My mom's been cheating on my dad with Tyler's dad for 2 years. They used their work to hide it. They lied to everyone. And now everyone should know. The room went silent, completely silent. Every eye was on us. Catherine's face went through shock, horror, rage, humiliation. Brandon looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Emma, Catherine whispered. How could you? How could I? Emma's voice was shaking now, but still strong. How could you? How could you lie to Dad every day? How could you lie to me and Lucas? How could you pretend we were a happy family when you were destroying it? Several people had their phones out. This was being recorded. This was going to be all over social media by morning. Good, let it be. Jennifer put her hand on her son's shoulders. Boys, what did we talk about? That Dad made bad choices, the older one said quietly, and that you and Mr. Martinez are making sure there are consequences. That's right, Jennifer said, looking at Brandon. Consequences. Starting tomorrow when you lose your job. Continuing through divorce proceedings, where I'll be filing based on adultery, which in this state affects asset division, and ending with you being known as the man who destroyed 2 families for an affair? This is insane, Brandon said, trying to regain control. You're both acting crazy. We can discuss this rationally. Like you discussed it rationally with your wife while you were sleeping with mine? I asked. Like Katherine discussed it rationally with our children while she was lying about working late? The principal of the school approached us. I think it would be best if you all took this outside. We're done here anyway, I said. I looked at Katherine one last time. Divorce papers will be served tomorrow along with your termination letter. I'm filing for full custody based on your affair and the lies you've told our children. Emma and Lucas will decide if and when they want to see you. You can't keep my children from me, Katherine said desperately. I'm not. But I'm not going to force them to be around someone who taught them that lying is acceptable, that betraying people you love is okay. They deserve better than that. Emma took my hand. We walked out of the gala, Uncle Rico meeting us at the door. Behind us, the silence erupted into whispers and exclamations. It was done. The exposure was complete. And tomorrow, the professional consequences would rain down. I won't lie and say it felt good. It felt necessary. There's a difference. The next few weeks were chaos. Katherine and Brandon were both terminated as promised. The company released a statement about terminating employees for policy violations without naming them. But in the age of social media, everyone knew. Katherine tried to fight the divorce, tried to claim I'd been controlling, that she'd been unhappy for years, that the affair was a symptom, not the cause. But I had evidence of her plans to strategically time the divorce for financial gain. I had her own words talking about stringing me along until she could maximize her settlement. The judge was not sympathetic. Brandon tried to negotiate with Jennifer, tried to offer her a better settlement to avoid the public trial. Jennifer refused. She wanted him to face a courtroom, face a judge, face the consequences in the most official way possible. Both divorces were granted. Both Katherine and Brandon lost significantly in the asset division because of the documented adultery. Both had to face their children and explain why they destroyed their families. Emma and Lucas decided they wanted to live with me full-time. Katherine got supervised visitation. It broke her. Good. Jennifer's sons were younger, needed more structure, so they ended up with joint custody, but Jennifer as the primary parent. Brandon had to pay significant child support from his much smaller income at his new job. He'd been blacklisted in his industry. Turns out when you get fired for cause from a major firm, other major firms don't want to hire you. Katherine found work eventually, but nothing like what she'd had. Her reputation preceded her. The woman who destroyed 2 families and lost her career over an affair wasn't exactly a hot commodity in professional circles. 6 months after everything imploded, I was at Emma's soccer game when Jennifer sat down next to me. How are you holding up? She asked. Better than I expected, I admitted. The kids are adjusting. Lucas is seeing a therapist. Emma's doing okay, but she's angry. She has a right to be. How about your boys? Therapy for both of them. Tyler, especially. He feels guilty, like somehow his dad's choices were his fault. We're working through it. We sat in silence for a moment. watching the kids play. Do you regret it? Jennifer asked. The way we did it? The public exposure? I thought about it. No, they needed to face consequences. Real ones. Not just lose their marriage privately. They needed everyone to know what they'd done. Otherwise, they'd just rewrite the story, make themselves the victims. That's what I think too, Jennifer said. But it's hard on the kids. The affair was hard on the kids. We just made sure the truth was told. Jennifer nodded. Brandon tried to call me last week. Wanted to talk about reconciliation. What did you tell him? I told him that ship sailed when he decided my marriage vows were optional. That trust, once broken, that completely can't be repaired. That I deserve better than someone who'd lie to my face for 2 years. Good for you. Katherine try anything similar? She sends me long emails about how she made mistakes, but she still loves me. How we could try again if I could just forgive her. And I delete them without reading past the first line. I don't need her version of events. I lived through the truth. A year later, life had found a new normal. The kids were doing better. Emma was still angry at her mother, but working through it in therapy. Lucas had started opening up more, asking questions about why people lie and how to know who to trust. I'd started dating someone new. Angela, a teacher at the kids' school who'd reached out after the divorce. She'd been through something similar with her ex-husband. We understood each other's caution, our need to rebuild trust slowly. Katherine had moved in with some guy she'd met online. It didn't last. Neither did the next relationship. Turned out when you're known as the woman who destroyed 2 families, decent men tend to stay away. Brandon had moved to another state, trying to escape the reputation. Jennifer told me he was working in sales now, making a fraction of what he used to make. His son saw him twice a year, if that. Jennifer and I stayed friends. Not close friends, but people who'd been through a war together and survived. We'd text occasionally, update each other on how the kids were doing, share dark humor about how Katherine and Brandon had imploded their lives. One day Jennifer sent me a screenshot. Katherine had tried to friend her on social media. The message said, I know we've had our differences, but I hope we can move past them. We were both victims of circumstance. I called Jennifer. Did you accept? Are you kidding? I blocked her immediately. We weren't victims of circumstance. We were victims of their choices. There's a difference. Agreed. Though it takes some nerve to try to request you, she's trying to rewrite history, make it all seem like it just happened to everyone, like no one was at fault. That's what they do. They can't accept that they're the villain in this story. Let her rewrite it in her head if she wants. The rest of us know the truth. 3 years after everything fell apart, I was at Lucas's Little League game when I saw Katherine in the stands. She was alone, sitting far from the other parents. Emma had warned me she might be there. Lucas had grudgingly agreed to let her come to his games, though he still didn't want private visits. I didn't approach her. She didn't approach me. We existed in the same space without acknowledging each other. That seemed right somehow. She destroyed what we had so completely that even basic courtesy felt like too much. After the game, Lucas came over to me, glanced at where Katherine was sitting, and said, I don't think I want her to come to games anymore. That's your choice, buddy. You don't have to let her in your life if you're not ready. I'm not sure I'll ever be ready. She lied too much. How do I trust anything she says? That's a fair question. Trust has to be earned. She broke it. It's on her to earn it back, if that's even possible. I don't think it is, Lucas said quietly. Not for me. Emma, who'd been listening, put her arm around her brother. You don't have to decide now. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to not forgive her. Despite what people say, not everything has to be forgiven. She was right. That's what I'd been teaching them. That forgiveness is a choice, not an obligation. That some betrayals are too deep to heal. That it's okay to protect yourself from people who've hurt you, even if they're family. 5 years after the Midnight Lies came to light, I was at a school fundraiser with Angela. We'd gotten engaged 6 months earlier. The kids loved her. She was patient with their trust issues, understanding of their complicated feelings about their mother. Jennifer was there too, with someone new herself, a doctor she'd met at the hospital. They looked happy. Her boys were doing well, both in therapy but thriving. Katherine didn't come to school events anymore. The kids had made it clear they didn't want her there. She'd send gifts on birthdays and holidays. Most went unopened. It sounds harsh, but it was their choice. I didn't encourage it, but I didn't discourage it either. Brandon had gotten remarried, I heard through Jennifer, to someone who didn't know his history, or at least claimed not to. Jennifer's boys didn't go to the wedding. They'd mostly written their father off. That night, after the fundraiser, Angela and I were driving home. "Do you ever regret how you handled it?" she asked. "The public exposure, the coordinated attack on their careers." "You know what I regret?" I said. "I regret not seeing it sooner. I regret believing the lies as long as I did. But the way I handled it once I knew? No. They needed to face consequences, real ones. Not just lose their marriages, but face public accountability for destroying two families. It was pretty brutal, though." "It was. But you know what's more brutal? Lying to your kids for 2 years, making them doubt their reality, destroying their sense of security. Katherine and Brandon chose to do that. Jennifer and I chose to make sure they didn't get away with it." Angela squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you did. If you'd let it slide, if you'd kept it private and let them control the narrative, you'd be a different person. Someone who let people walk over him. That's not who I am. That's not who my kids need me to be." Exactly. 7 years later, Emma graduated high school. Katherine wasn't invited to the graduation party. Emma had made that choice herself. "She doesn't get to pretend she was part of my life when she chose not to be," Emma explained. "She could have chosen us. She chose herself." Lucas was in high school himself now, doing well, on the football team. He barely spoke to Katherine. She'd tried to re-establish a relationship multiple times. He'd shut her down every time. "I can't trust her," he told me once. "And without trust, what's the point?" Jennifer's boys were similar with Brandon. The younger one had completely cut contact. The older one saw him occasionally but kept him at arm's length. Both Katherine and Brandon had essentially lost their children because of the choices they'd made. The midnight lies had cost them everything. Angela and I had married. She'd officially adopted Emma and Lucas. They called her by her first name, not Mom. That was fine. They had a mom, even if that relationship was broken. But Angela was family in the way that mattered. She was there, she was honest, she was trustworthy. Sometimes people ask me if I ever think about what might have been, if I ever wonder if there was a way to save the marriage. And the answer is no, because the marriage that existed was built on lies. Katherine wasn't the person I thought she was. The woman I married didn't exist. The woman who existed was someone who could lie to my face for 2 years while destroying our family. You can't save something that was never real in the first place. Jennifer and I still talk occasionally. Our kids are at different schools now, different stages of life. But we text on the anniversary of the gala, a dark joke between us. "Happy Exposure Day," one of us will write. The other will respond with a dark humor gif. We survived. That's what matters. We protected our kids as much as we could. We made sure Katherine and Brandon faced consequences. We rebuilt our lives into something better. 10 years after the midnight lies, I'm sitting in my home office. Emma's in college, thriving. Lucas is a junior in high school, looking at universities. Angela's teaching has evolved into administration. She's a vice principal now. Katherine sends emails still. I don't read them. Emma does occasionally, more out of curiosity than any desire to reconnect. Lucas deletes them immediately. Brandon, I heard through Jennifer, has been through 2 more relationships. Both ended when the women found out about his past. He's bitter now, angry at the world for not letting him move on. He blames Jennifer and me for poisoning his reputation. He can't accept that he poisoned it himself. That's the thing about people like Katherine and Brandon. They never really accept responsibility. Even years later, they see themselves as victims of circumstance rather than architects of their own destruction. But here's what I know now that I didn't know 10 years ago. The midnight lies didn't destroy 2 families. Katherine and Brandon destroyed 2 families. The midnight lies just exposed it, brought it into the light, made it impossible to ignore. And sometimes exposure is the only path to healing. Sometimes you have to burn it all down to build something better. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm harder, more cautious, less trusting. But I'm also stronger. I taught my kids that honesty matters, that actions have consequences, that they deserve people in their lives who will be truthful even when it's hard. That's worth more than any marriage built on lies could ever be. So yeah, that's my story. The story of how one wife's midnight lies destroyed two families, how two spouses decided not to be victims, but to make sure the truth mattered, how we chose accountability over privacy, consequences over convenience. Was it harsh? Absolutely. Was it necessary? For us, yes. For our kids, yes. Because the alternative was letting Katherine and Brandon rewrite history, play the victims, avoid real accountability for what they'd done. And that was unacceptable. The midnight lies are over now. The truth is out. The consequences were faced. The families were rebuilt, different but stronger. And me, I sleep just fine at night. Because I know I did right by my kids. I taught them that truth matters, that integrity matters, that some things are worth fighting for, even when that fight gets ugly. Katherine and Brandon destroyed two families, but they didn't destroy us. We survived. We thrived. We built something better from the ashes of their lies. And that's the real victory. The Yasoinum.